Listen, I say this all the time. If you have a grandparent, cherish those moments. If you have a grandparent that was in the war, has those war stories, and was around and can tell you everything back then what was going on, like cherished. I'm jealous. I have one grandparent, my grandma. My other grandma, she passed when I was younger, and she was in a nursing home throughout my younger years. So didn't really have that type of opportunity to hear from her. And then granddads all passed when I was younger, way before I was able to understand. So I never had that opportunity. You know, I have to come to the internet for war stories or war videos, war entertainment, information and stuff like that. I have to come to the internet, you know? So I just say that because when I think about videos and different things like that, or entertainment videos from the war and stuff that has information, I just go there and be like, man, I wish I had that access. So if you have that access, cherish it, right? This next video, man, is huge war vault finally open. What's inside? Let's check it out.
Huh. It's a big room.
And full of gold, of banknotes and so on.
For decades, rumors swirled about a massive underground chamber hidden away since World War II. I've heard the stories: stolen treasure, secret documents, artifacts lost to time. And I've always wanted to know what, if anything, was really down there. As unbelievable as it sounded at first, when I looked into it, there was a lot more truth to the rumors than I expected.
More than 8,000 gold bars had been stored here.
This is just incredible.
One, hidden gold. As World War II was coming to an end, Nazi leaders were in a state of panic. They had spent years looting occupied countries, stealing gold, jewels, and priceless artifacts, much of it taken from Jewish families and businesses. With the Allies advancing on all fronts, it became clear that Germany was going to lose the war. The Nazis, determined to keep their stolen wealth from falling into enemy hands, began hiding their treasures in remote locations, sinking them in lakes or storing them deep underground. One of the most significant discoveries of hidden Nazi treasure occurred in April 1945 at the Merkers salt mine in Germany. The mine, located in the small town of Merkers in Thuringia, had been chosen as a secure hiding place for a massive portion of the Third Reich's stolen wealth. The Nazis believed that the salt mine, with its deep underground chambers and stable conditions, would keep their treasure safe from bombings and advancing Allied forces. As US troops pushed deeper into Germany, they captured Merkers on April 4th, 1945. At first, the soldiers had no idea about the mine's secret, but after questioning local residents and German soldiers, they heard whispers about something valuable being stored underground. Two French women, who had been forced to work as laborers in the area, confirmed these rumors, revealing that Nazi officials had moved a large amount of treasure into the mine over the past few months. Armed with this information, the US Army launched an investigation. On April 7th, a team of American officers, including General Dwight D. Eisenhower, ordered a search of the mine. When they descended into the tunnels, they discovered an astonishing hoard of gold and valuables hidden in a series of underground vaults. The scale of the discovery was staggering. More than 100 tons of gold bars, gold coins, and other precious metals were stacked in the mine's chambers. Alongside the gold, they found...
Why would they put everything in one place? That makes no sense to me. Not like spread it all throughout. You would really take that gamble and put it all in one spot? Or maybe they didn't. And maybe it's some still out there. Maybe we all need to take a trip and go look. Cause I find it hard to believe that you would really gamble and put everything in one location. Whoever made that decision, wow.
Massive amounts of Reichsmarks, US dollars, British pounds, and French francs, all carefully stored in sacks and crates.
Huh. It's a big room.
And full of gold, of banknotes and so on.
But the gold and money weren't the only treasures hidden in the mine. the soldiers also found priceless works of art, including paintings, sculptures, and religious artifacts that had been stolen from museums, churches, and private collections across Europe. Some of these masterpieces had been taken from the Louvre in Paris, while others had belonged to Jewish families who had been sent to concentration camps.
Now, the question is, when this stuff was discovered or found, did it go back to its rightful owner? Or was America on some finders keepers? Like, were they on that type of time? Or did it go back to its rightful owner? That's my question now.
The Nazis had looted entire nations, and much of that plunder had ended up here, deep underground. One of the most shocking discoveries was a collection of personal valuables taken from Holocaust victims. There were bags filled with gold teeth, wedding rings, and jewelry, horrifying evidence of the Nazis' brutality. These items had been confiscated from concentration camp prisoners, melted down, and stored as wealth for the Reich. The discovery at Merkers wasn't just about stolen treasure. It was a grim reminder of the atrocities committed during the Holocaust. Realizing the importance of what they had found, the US Army quickly secured the mine. Within days, they began transporting the gold and valuables to Frankfurt for safekeeping. Later, much of the stolen wealth was returned to its rightful owners, though some treasures were never reclaimed. The discovery of the Merkers salt mine was one of the biggest recoveries of Nazi loot during the war. It revealed just how far the Third Reich had gone to amass wealth, and how desperate they were to keep it hidden. While some of the Nazi gold was recovered, many believe that other caches of treasure remain undiscovered, buried deep underground, or lost to history.
So we do need to take a trip. That's all y'all need to say. You know what I mean? I done got on one plane ride now. Let's do it. Who down? I'm down. Let's go. Let's put it together. Somebody organize it. Let's do it. You know what I mean? What we got to lose at this point?
Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week.
2. The Alps. One of the most famous theories suggests that a massive cache of Nazi gold was dumped into Lake Toplitz, a cold, glacier-fed lake surrounded by dense forests and steep cliffs. Its isolated location made it an ideal hiding place, and after the war, locals claimed to have seen Nazi officers throwing crates into the water. Some even reported hearing gunfire, leading to speculation that witnesses or prisoners may have been executed to keep the secret buried. In the 1950s and 1960s, treasure hunters and...
Dang. So, are you saying they had people assist them, and then when they got there, they looked at them and was like, y'all know where this is at, so sorry, and ended them? Just because they knew and they were witnesses, bro. Heartless right there. That's a different level of heartlessness right there. Yeah.
Divers began searching the lake, hoping to recover the lost gold. They found plenty of evidence of Nazi activity, including bundles of counterfeit British pounds, part of Operation Bernhard, a Nazi plan to flood the British economy with fake currency. They also discovered weapons, documents, and even aircraft parts. However, no gold was ever officially found, leading some to believe it may still be sitting at the lake's bottom, hidden beneath layers of mud and debris. While Lake Toplitz remains the most well-known hiding spot, some believe the gold was never thrown into the water at all. Instead, they argue that Nazi officials may have sealed off underground bunkers in the Austrian Alps, hiding their wealth in reinforced vaults before fleeing. Some reports suggest that SS officers built secret chambers into the mountains, using forced labor to carve out massive storage facilities. As the war ended, they may have destroyed the entrances or booby-trapped them to prevent discovery. All that, with how much time has passed since it all happened, means that the entrance would be covered up by wild growth, making it impossible to find today. 3. Monte Sorate. Beneath Monte Sorate, about 40 kilometers north of Rome, lies a vast network of underground tunnels with a chilling past. Originally built by the Italian government under Mussolini in the 1930s, these bunkers were designed as military shelters. But in 1943, when Germany occupied Italy, the Nazis took control of the tunnels and transformed them into a strategic command center for their operations in Italy. This underground complex became a fully functional city for the German military, complete with a bakery, a beer hall, a cinema, and living quarters for over 1,000 soldiers. Some sections have been restored, revealing how the troops lived. Wine bottles, beer kegs, and even murals painted by homesick soldiers still remain. But other tunnels remain untouched, collapsed from Allied bombings, or simply too dangerous to explore. Witnesses have claimed to have seen crates of gold bars being moved into the tunnels, yet no confirmed discovery has ever been made. With at least 4 kilometers of tunnels, possibly more still undiscovered, there's plenty.
And now you see why they're so secretive about tunnels. We talked about this before. And now, like, hearing about certain places or discovering certain places nowadays, and you're like, man, why come we never heard about this? This is why. There's no telling what's in there, what's stored in there, what valuables they put in there and have in there away from us to know about. Now, that don't mean if you come across a tunnel, go in there. I mean, that's like the sign say, enter at your own risk. I would be extremely cautious. But yeah, this is why they keep certain things from us, bro.
Plenty of space to conceal such a treasure. Some believe that collapsed sections of the bunker may be hiding the gold, buried beneath rubble where no one has been able to reach. Treasure hunters and historians have searched for decades, hoping to uncover what the Nazis may have left behind. The sheer depth and complexity of the tunnels make it difficult to explore every hidden chamber, and new passageways are still being found. Some speculate that the gold may have been secretly recovered years ago, while others believe it remains hidden, waiting for the right discovery. Even without the gold, Monte Sorate's underground fortress is a fascinating piece of World War II history. A place where soldiers lived, strategized, and possibly concealed a fortune in their final days in Italy. But that gold never ended up being useful for them, or anyone, because it's still hidden to this day. 4. The fillings. During World War II, as Nazi forces invaded occupied territories, they didn't just plunder gold, currency, and art. They also collected human lives and turned many into victims of brutal, inhumane practices. One particularly grim chapter of this story involved gold teeth fillings, which were systematically stolen from the bodies of murdered victims in concentration camps. As the Third Reich fell, the extent of the Nazis' looting operations came to light in various forms. In addition to finding mountains of gold bars, cash, and priceless objects, Allied forces also discovered gold fillings that had been ripped from the mouths of Holocaust victims, primarily Jews, during the mass atrocities carried out by the Nazis. These fillings, which had once belonged to innocent people, were collected for their gold content, melted down, and possibly used in manufacturing or stored for future use. In the aftermath of the war, many survivors and the Allied forces uncovered shocking evidence of these horrific actions. As the Allies liberated the concentration camps, they came across not just piles of jewelry and stolen artworks, but also gold teeth, evidence of the brutal extraction process. These fillings were often stored in boxes, hidden within the concentration camp warehouses. Some of the fillings were even found in the vaults of Nazi officials who had escaped capture in the war's final days. Rumor has it, many of the fillings originally found were melted to be used for Hitler himself. 5. Nazi tunnels. For 80 years, the Nazi tunnels hidden beneath Lubon, Poland, were left to decay in silence, their existence a mystery. That is, until a group of explorers stumbled upon them and uncovered a terrifying piece of history. Carved into an extinct volcano, these tunnels were part of a vast, secretive Nazi project built by
I ain't going to no tunnel carved into a volcano. I'm not doing that. That's just crazy. Crazy. Why? Why would you build it there? Why? Of all the places we could do, I can think of a ton of other places we could do this thing. A volcano? Yeah. I guess, and I guess in that thought process, you think, ain't nobody coming in a volcano or near a volcano like that. So, but that just makes it crazy to me, even crazier.
Laborers during World War II. Going deeper than the obvious surface, they found a massive network of tunnels, mine carts, and railroad tracks. Evidence of a massive underground complex that was never finished. Some of the sections were sealed off with huge stone walls, and the team comes across discarded tools like shovels and drill bits, left behind in a hurry. It's clear that the workers didn't get to finish their work, and the condition of the tunnels makes it obvious they were forced to work in dangerous, often deadly conditions. In some places, the tunnels are flooded and unstable, but the explorers press on, uncovering more of the eerie remnants of a past left behind. One of the biggest surprises comes when the team realizes the tunnels don't always match up with the Nazi maps they were following, pointing to a complex that might have been even bigger than expected. It's starting to look like these tunnels are just one part of a larger underground operation that could have included radar stations and weapons factories. This was no small undertaking, and the work here wasn't just about hiding things. It was about creating an entire hidden world, but they weren't able to finish doing it. 6. Wünsdorf. For 80 years, these places have stood frozen in time, their walls hiding the remnants of war, occupation, and abandonment. Just south of Berlin, Wünsdorf was once the heart of military operations in Germany. In the early 20th century, the area served as an imperial military training ground, but under the Nazis, it became the headquarters of the German Army High Command. Deep underground, bunkers like Maybach Verbaren II were built to withstand bombings, their entrances disguised by country-style houses. The Zeppelin bunker, a nerve center for Nazi military communications, was reinforced with thick concrete walls and buried 18 meters below ground. After World War II, Soviet forces took control, repurposing these underground facilities while building new barracks above. At its peak, Wünsdorf housed 75,000 Soviet military personnel and their families, complete with schools, stores, theaters, and even a Lenin monument, the last of its kind still standing in Germany. Today, Wünsdorf is a shell of its former self. The Soviet army abandoned it in 1994, and since then, nature has begun reclaiming the area. Crumbling buildings, broken windows, and peeling murals of Soviet propaganda remain, but most of the site is slowly decaying. Tourists and urban explorers now walk through the desolate halls, finding relics of the past, old newspapers, Soviet insignias, and rusted equipment left behind when the soldiers departed. The underground bunkers, once secured by blast doors and air filtration systems, are now damp, cold, and eerily silent.
I don't understand why they didn't turn this into a museum of such. You clearly have a tourist presence that clearly wants to see it. I would want to see it if I went there and explore that type of stuff in a safe environment. Like that clearly would be a huge draw. And you make a ton of money. I don't understand this one.
About 30 kilometers west of Wünsdorf, the Baylitz Heilstätten Sanatorium tells another story. Originally built in 1902 as a tuberculosis treatment center, the hospital later became a military hospital during both world wars. A young Adolf Hitler was treated here in 1916 after being wounded in battle. Later, the Soviets took over, using the facility as a military hospital until their withdrawal in the 1990s. Some of its 60 buildings have been restored, but others, like the fire-ravaged Alpenhaus, remain in ruins. Trees now grow on rooftops, and entire sections are covered in vines, creating an eerie mix of nature and decay. These places won't stay frozen in time forever. While some are protected as historical sites, others face demolition or redevelopment. For now, they remain haunting reminders of a turbulent past, waiting for those willing to step inside and uncover their secrets. 7. Nazi hideout. In 2015, archaeologists in Argentina uncovered what they believed to be a secret Nazi hideout, hidden deep within the jungle of Teucuar Park, located in the province of Misiones, near the border with Paraguay. This remote site consists of 3 stone buildings, a nearby stone quarry, and several World War II-era artifacts that suggest it may have been constructed as a potential refuge for high-ranking Nazi officers fleeing Europe after Germany's defeat. The hideout was found in a region historically known for its ties to Nazi fugitives. After the war, Argentina became a well-documented safe haven for former Nazi officials, including Adolf Eichmann, Josef Mengele, and Erich Priebke, many of whom arrived through clandestine escape networks known as rat lines. However, while most of these individuals settled in cities or rural areas, the Teucuare site appears to have been intended as a backup plan, a remote sanctuary if things went wrong. The buildings, which had been overtaken.
See, that makes you think, right? I wonder, do we have some of those today? You know, places for them to run to when things hit the fan. Their escape spots and destinations, and yeah, we know it. They got them. They definitely got them, and they should call them little rat hideouts too. That's what I think they should, just like they did.
By jungle vegetation, are made of thick stone walls up to 3 feet wide, suggesting an emphasis on durability and secrecy. Inside, archaeologists found German coins from 1938 to 1944, pieces of German porcelain, and inscriptions in the walls, though their exact meanings remain unclear. The site also included what might have been a watchtower, reinforcing the idea that security and discretion were priorities. One of the most significant aspects of the discovery is that Teju Quarry is in an extremely isolated area, making it an ideal location for someone looking to disappear. The terrain is rugged, with steep cliffs and dense foliage, providing natural protection and concealment. If the hideout was indeed meant for Nazis, it may have been designed as a fallback location, to be used only if escape to Argentina's urban areas became too risky. While the evidence strongly suggests a Nazi connection, there is no proof that the hideout was actually used. Researchers believe the site was built as part of a contingency plan, but because so many Nazi fugitives successfully integrated into Argentine society, it may have never been needed. Instead of hiding in the jungle, many prominent Nazis lived openly under false identities in Buenos Aires, Cordoba, and Bariloche, often with the help of sympathetic government officials. Still, the discovery at Teju Quarry provides further insight into Nazi escape strategies and how they prepared for worst-case scenarios. The combination of German-made artifacts, the site's strategic isolation, and its construction style all point to a clear link, even if its intended occupants never had to use it. 8. Arctic Base. The Schatzgräber treasure hunter base was a secret Nazi outpost discovered on Alexandra Land, an island in the Franz Josef Land archipelago in the Arctic. Built in 1942, the base was primarily used as a weather station to support German military operations, particularly for the Kriegsmarine and Luftwaffe. Weather data was crucial for German U-boats and Arctic convoys, which relied on accurate forecasts to navigate the harsh conditions of the North Atlantic and Arctic Ocean. Schatzgräber was established about 1,000 kilometers from the North Pole on a deep bay with a tundra strip free of glaciers. The site was carefully chosen, featuring a freshwater lake nearby and being protected by minefields on the north and east, with a machine gun pillbox guarding the bay. These defenses suggest the Germans anticipated potential incursions, or at least wanted to secure the area against unwanted intrusions. In 2016, Russian scientists and military personnel explored the ruins and uncovered a significant amount of wartime artifacts, including German military equipment and supplies such as boots, clothing, and ammunition. They also found aviation parcel containers, scraps of camouflage nets, and sheets from books containing Hitler's speeches. Remarkably, some of these supplies were still intact, and Soviet border guards stationed nearby in the 1960s and 70s even used leftover German boots from the base. This suggests the outpost was relatively well stocked and possibly intended for long-term use. One of the most intriguing finds was a pipe leading deep underground, possibly part of a concealed ventilation system. This has led to speculation that the base may have included a hidden underground facility. Some theories suggest it could have connected to a natural grotto, or even a large submarine accessible cave, similar to those known to exist on other Arctic islands. German records mention such underwater hideouts in the Arctic, but no definitive evidence has been found linking them to Schatzgräber. The base was abandoned under dramatic circumstances in 1944. Reports indicate that German personnel stationed there fell ill after consuming contaminated polar bear meat, forcing them to send a distress call. A Luftwaffe plane evacuated the survivors, and the base was left to the elements. It remained forgotten until the 21st century when researchers rediscovered its remains. The only question now is, was there more to the base than we know? 9. Berghof. The Berghof was Adolf Hitler's private retreat in the Bavarian Alps, located near Berchtesgaden, Germany. It was one of his most frequently used residences and served as an informal headquarters where he met with high-ranking Nazi officials, foreign dignitaries, and military leaders. Originally a modest mountain home called Haus Wachenfeld, Hitler purchased it in 1933 and expanded it significantly over the next few years, transforming it into a sprawling alpine estate. The estate featured a massive main house with a large picture window offering panoramic views of the surrounding mountains. The interior was lavishly decorated with a grand hall, a library, and Hitler's personal study. A massive terrace allowed guests to take in the dramatic scenery, and Hitler often used this setting to impress visitors. The Berghof also had an underground bunker system, connecting tunnels and extensive security measures.
I was about to say, he had way too many enemies and stuff like that for him to just be living in some house in the middle of nowhere, out in the open, visible for people to, no. Now it makes sense. The underground tunnels and different things like that, safe house. I get it now. Plus he was inviting people there. Yeah. that wasn't making sense to me or registering with me with who we were talking about at the time, but now it makes sense.
Reflecting its importance as a private and strategic location. The surrounding Obersalzberg area became a heavily fortified Nazi stronghold, with residences for key figures like Hermann Göring and Martin Bormann, along with SS barracks and air defense systems. A secretive command center, the Führer headquarters, was also integrated into the landscape. The complex was heavily guarded, with
Again, now it's making more sense. When they just first presented it, it was like he was just living out at some resort out in the open. Just, that didn't make sense to me at all. But now they got me right. Now I understand. I was like, hey, there's no way he ain't have top level security there.
Aircraft defenses and restricted access. Despite its idyllic setting, the Berghof played a central role in Nazi planning. Many key military decisions, including aspects of the invasion of the Soviet Union, were discussed there. The estate became a symbol of Hitler's personal power and his vision for the Third Reich, often appearing in propaganda films and photographs. As the war turned against Germany, Hitler visited the Berghof less frequently. In April 1945, Allied bombers heavily damaged the site, and retreating at...
Is it just me, or do he give me like Putin vibes? Like Putin comes off just like this. This is what he puts me in the mind of.
SS troops later set it on fire to prevent it from becoming a relic of the Nazi regime. After the war, American forces occupied the area, and the ruins were eventually demolished in the 1950s to discourage any neo-Nazi pilgrimage. Today, little remains of the Berghof, except for a few scattered foundations and historical markers. But nothing compares to the next discovery, one that defines Hitler's era. 10. Auschwitz. Auschwitz was the largest and deadliest concentration and extermination camp operated by Nazi Germany during World War II. Located in occupied Poland, it became the primary site of the Holocaust, where over 1 million people were systematically murdered between 1940 and 1945. The camp was originally established as a detention center for Polish political prisoners, but quickly expanded into a major center for mass murder, forced labor, and medical experiments. The Auschwitz complex consisted of 3 main camps. Auschwitz the Bein was the original concentration camp, used primarily for forced labor and as a base for SS officers. Auschwitz II Birkenau, built in 1941, became the main extermination site, where most of the mass killings occurred in gas chambers using Zyklon B. Auschwitz III Monowitz served as a labor camp, where prisoners worked under brutal conditions for German companies like IEIG Farben. The entire complex also included dozens of subcamps supporting Nazi industries. Prisoners arrived in Auschwitz after grueling train journeys and overcrowded cattle cars, often traveling for days without food, water, or sanitation. Upon arrival, they faced a brutal selection process conducted by SS officers. The weak, elderly, children, and pregnant women were immediately sent to the gas chambers, disguised as communal shower rooms. Those deemed fit for labor faced a slow death through starvation, disease, exhaustion, and mistreatment. Living conditions were inhumane. Overcrowded barracks, extreme hunger, and brutal punishments were part of daily life. Many prisoners were also subjected to horrific medical experiments, particularly under the supervision of Dr. Joseph Mengele, who performed procedures without anesthesia, often leading to death. The camp functioned with horrifying efficiency. The gas chambers could kill thousands of people at once, and the adjacent crematoria disposed of the bodies. Personal belongings, including clothing, hair, and even gold teeth, were collected and repurposed for the German war effort. Mass executions, shootings, starvation, and torture were routine. Prisoners who became too weak to work were often selected for death in what the Nazis called special treatment. As the Soviet Red Army advanced in late 1944, the Nazis began dismantling Auschwitz to cover up their crimes. Gas chambers and crematoria were destroyed, documents were burned, and surviving prisoners were forced on death marches to other camps. When Soviet forces liberated Auschwitz on January 27, 1945, they found around 7,000 starving and disease survivors, along with items that are still on display today. Several rooms display the haunting remnants of the camp's victims. One of the most disturbing exhibits is the hair room, where 7 tons of human hair, shaved from prisoners before their execution, is preserved behind glass. The Nazis collected this hair to be used in textile production, and some braids remain tied, showing the personal loss behind the atrocity. Another room holds thousands of worn-out shoes, stacked from floor to ceiling. Many belong to children, a tragic reminder of the families that were torn apart upon arrival. There is also a display of confiscated suitcases, still labeled with their owners' names, as the Nazis tricked prisoners into believing they were being relocated rather than led to their deaths. A separate room holds dentures and gold teeth extracted from corpses, a chilling sign of the systematic exploitation of the victims even after death. Other exhibits include piles of glasses, crutches, prosthetic limbs, and even baby clothes, all stripped from those who never left Auschwitz. These rooms bring us face to face with the scale of the genocide, making it impossible to ignore the personal and human cost of the Holocaust.